Hi, Tony. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Thanks.
Thank you. We will begin in 1 minute.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order council meeting of Monday, March 17th, 2025. Everyone that can, please rise for the playing of the national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. Quand bras et porter le pays, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Niagara Region and Grimsby are situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wendourong, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and the town of Grimsby stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Korstanji. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Korstanji. Resolved that the March 17th, 2025 council meeting agenda be approved. All in favor? That's carried. We have no delegations this evening, but we have a regional councillor update. Regional Councillor Seaborn, come on up to the podium, Michelle.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan, and happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. I'm sorry that this looks like a really long report. I'm not going to go through the entire report with you because I know you've all read it. I'm going to try and hit on just the highlights. But for those that want the full report, just a reminder that it does become part of the agenda, so it is available online as well. So lots happening in the region. I'm sorry I wasn't here last month, but you wouldn't have wanted me here with pneumonia, so we'll just skip right over that and we'll do two reports at the same time. The first one is a small report about the regional budget. It was passed recently at 9.6% increase. I wanted to point out that 92% of the regional budget and 95% of the staff that are dedicated to delivering the essential services are mandated by the province. So we're kind of at the province's beck and call when it comes to some of these projects that we have to put through. And of course, their prices or our prices are going up as much as your municipal prices are. Of note, I want to make sure that you understand that 40% of that budget is your police budget. So of the 9.6%, almost 5% of it is your police budget, and that is because they are hiring 33 new frontline officers. Everyone in the region wants more police on the ground. You got 33 coming for the year of 2025. I have included just that brief outline in your paperwork. Capital projects for Grimsby. Everybody wants to know what's happening as far as Grimsby is concerned. So with regards to public works, there are 3 projects in transportation. This includes the road reconstruction, widening, intersection improvements, and active transportation for, yes, Casablanca Boulevard from Main to North Service Road. The project is at the tender stage. All of the plans are in order. All the diagrams have been done. We're just awaiting MTO for final approval, and that is, of course, connected with the GO station. So once they get one of those things done, we will get moving on Casablanca. The second is the urbanization of Regional Road 81, Main Street West, from Oaks Road to Casablanca. You'll recall that last year, that road was really a mess with the freezing and thawing, brought up a lot of that, the asphalt, and it was nothing but pitted road for quite a period of length. So this has been approved. It will get done starting in 2027. It'll include drainage improvements, road and shoulder resurfacing. It'll be equipped for active transportation with north side sidewalks. It's 90% in the design phase, and it will go to tender with the expect build out in 2027. Now, you will notice that some of the improvements have already been made. It's a temporary improvement. They did come through and do some of the asphalt on the shoulders to make it a little bit easier for the residents of that section of the road. You'll also notice that in the next year that there will be some work being done on that stretch as they start moving some of the utilities. The third is a public works project for the reconstruction and urbanization with active transportation for Regional Road 81 from Park Road to the West Niagara High School. This project is in the detailed design phase. There's other projects awaiting start dates, which include the rehabilitation of the retaining wall on Mountain Street and a culvert bridge that covers the 40 Mile Creek at Main Street. The construction of the new trunk water main from Grimsby Water Treatment Plant to Park Ridge Reservoir has had an environmental assessment for the high-pressure feeder main to uplift that water to the reservoir. On March 31st, the region issued a notification for road closure for the South Service Road from 50 Road to Kelson, beginning today and running through till August. I want to point out that this is for construction more on the Hamilton side. It does not come into the Grimsby side, but that part of the road will be closed. And it's 1540 South Service Road. Next, I want to just touch a little bit on homelessness because we've heard an awful lot of it, and it sounds like the province might be listening to us right now. Homelessness continues to be a problem for the region, well, for the entire province. There were 701 people that were experiencing homelessness as of October 22nd of 2024. Of this number, 101 of them were children less than age 15. 89 of them were for seniors over the age of 55. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing has made $20.7 million available for community outreach and support services, emergency shelter solutions, housing assistance, and supportive housing. The region has added $5.8 million to that amount. Meanwhile, the province of Ontario has announced that the Niagara region will receive $18.9 million over a 3-year period, and this is to establish a homelessness, addiction, and recovery treatment hub that's known as HEART. This will aid people struggling with addiction and mental illness while chronically homeless. The next thing I want to mention is measles. As of March 19th, we were aware there was a measles outbreak. 177 people were reported to have measles in the South Ontario area. 3 of those were confirmed cases in Niagara. Now, that was as of March 9th, so we know that those numbers have gotten up. Really important is the fact that 90% of those cases were children that were unvaccinated. 98% of them were not vaccinated. It is a preventable illness. Vaccination will prevent you from getting it. It's not a very nice illness. You end up very itchy with an awful rash, and it's highly contagious. So please, if someone in your family does have the rash, does have measles, please keep them home from school and do not go to work during that time. Next is our favorite topic. It's the changes to the automated speed enforcement program. I know nobody is a big fan of these speed cameras, although I shouldn't say that because the statistics that we're getting are saying that they're working. But there are some changes because we are listening to a lot of the comments that we are putting forth to the department. So concerns from residents throughout Niagara have led to several changes in the program beginning this spring. Cameras currently in use will remain in use until April, and the only one in Grimsby is the one down by the high school. In May, the community safety zones will have a new look with better signage and new and consistent speed. Many complaints involving signage, which was cluttered, too small, and much too much information at a short space. The new signage, which I will get Katie to put up in a second, clearly indicates that you're in a school zone, that the speed has been reduced to 40 from the 50, and that there's no stopping areas outlined in the area. So Katie, if you've got a moment, you could put that up. So this is part of your package as well. It's the best diagram I could have for you, but what it's intended is, no longer in Grimsby will you see signs that say 40 starts out of a 50 zone, and it's between the hours of X and Y, between the months of A and B, and heaven help you if you didn't see that as you went cruising by. So it's now very clearly going to be marked. This is a 40 kilometer zone, and it will remain that way till you leave the community safety zone. So you'll also see that there'll be no stopping signs. It will clearly mark that you're in a school zone. And as I said, it'll eliminate a lot of the frustration and confusion that so many people had before. Some of the areas have also been extended, and that's a second diagram that you don't have. It came to me from one of the public works workers. I do appreciate his help, and I only received it today, and that was my fault. This is going to give you an idea of where these new safety zones are, and I want to mention that the distance has been extended. So because I can't read that, we're going to start off at your west end. The west end now goes from Roberts Road right through to Patton, and it covers the Blessed Trinity School. So you can see it as your yellow line there. That is going to be 40 kilometers an hour. It's currently 50. I should mention that throughout the region, every community safety zone dropped by 10 kilometers an hour. So if they used to be 60, they're now 50. We used to be 50, we are now going to be 40, and the vast majority of the safety zones in Niagara will be 40 with the new signage. The second area there will now go from Cemetery Road right up to Bartlett Avenue, and it's going to cover Nels Public School, Park Public School, as well as Centennial Park and Sherwood Park. So it's going to cover a lot of the areas where children and families might be congregating. The last one has a little bit of Grimsby, but it's mostly Lincoln, and that's going to go from Lawrence Avenue to Durham Road. And that, of course, is for the West Niagara Secondary School, as well as St. John Catholic School. As I mentioned, the only camera running currently in the Niagara area is the one that's currently set up for the high school. These changes should be made by May when the Park Road camera comes back online. Okay. The other complaints that we had about these had to do with the amount of time between the time you get a ticket and the time that you had the infraction and the time you get a ticket. These tickets are done by the provincial offenses officers with the Joint Processing Center in Toronto. They must issue the ticket within 28 days. But a big complaint is, I didn't know I was in a speeding area until I got 3 or 4 or 5 tickets, which I can understand is very frustrating for everybody. Usually that first ticket is an indicator you've done something wrong. To get multiple tickets is not going to be a good thing. Regional Corporate Services is aware of this. It is a big complaint, and they agree that 28 days from the time of infraction to the time of receiving a ticket is too long. I really hope that they can work on that a little bit. The last of the complaints that I get has to do with the fact that you're given 3 choices on your ticket. You can either pay the ticket upright, or you can apply for early resolution, or you can take it right to court. The idea of early resolution is that you should be able to argue to a prosecutor why you shouldn't get the ticket. The unfortunate part is when you get clocked by a camera, they already have proof that you did it, so you really can't argue it. So for that reason and that reason alone, many of us believe that there really shouldn't be that option on your ticket because you really can't fight it. If the camera says you did it, then they have proof that you did. Now for some good news. It's about time, right? So 2 athletes representing Canada for the Special Olympics come from the Niagara region. Carter Simpson is from Niagara-on-the-Lake. He won a bronze medal in slalom and a bronze in Super G alpine skiing in the Special Olympics. This concluded yesterday. The second person was Ewan Barkley. Ewan won a gold in 15-meter speed skating, a bronze in 1,000-meter speed skating, and another bronze in the 500-meter skating. So these are 2 Special Olympians that represented Canada from our area, and I was pleased to be able to be at their rally and encourage them on before they left in March. So that's a bit of good news. They brought home some gold. They are from Niagara, so I hope everybody agrees that that was a good news story. Now I'm ready for any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Seaborn. I see lots. Councillor DeVoley.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Seaborn. 2 questions. And I'll take you back to page 1 of your report and the percentage increases and so on. And maybe it's just in the presentation, but many municipalities, including ours, put into our budget a capital infrastructure levy. Did the region do the same? And on which line might that be and how much was it? Can you give us any details on it?
What I've given you is very basic, and it's on the front page of your particular handout there. So the capital financing, of course, is the financing for all your projects for roads, buildings, your fleet, but not wastewater and water. That comes through the special levy. I don't think that answered your question at all, did it? I'm afraid I can't answer that. I would imagine that it's built in there somewhere, but after about 18 weeks worth of budget talks, you kind of, you might lose that little detail. I will find out for you, though, and I'll get back to you about it.
That would be fine. Yes, thank you. The second question, and I'm just going to use the Niagara Regional Police as an example, because you did mention them, and that they were approved to hire 33 new staff members. And so the budget approves it, but I'm going to assume that, it takes time to hire them. And all 33 don't start on January 1st or January 2nd, yet the budget is approved as if it were for a full 12 months, correct? So that's sort of part A to my question. Part B is, if the budget is approved for a full 12 months and they are hired partway through the year, that means that those monies don't get spent on those new hirees. And so where does that portion of the budget go? Is there a reserve? Is it go against other expenses? How is it dealt with?
I love somebody that has all this accounting background behind her, because this one I'm prepared for. There are 33 officers coming 11 at a time, and the budget has been prorated, so each of them get it. So no, there's no carryover, there's no money left over. This is what it will cost us at the end of 2025. So yeah, 33 new officers is pretty substantial. That is in itself $5.3 million for those officers. So sometimes people will say to me that they'd rather see police doing certain things, and I remind them that our police officers are very busy as it is right now. And yeah, okay. Does that help?
Yes, and I guess related to that then is, so really what you're telling us is that the budget is very accurate. It's been calculated exactly based upon the potential hiring date, which means we can expect to see a budget increase the next calendar year when they are then on for a full 12 months, correct?
I'm absolutely certain you will, yes.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have 4 questions. You may not be able to answer them all, but how much of the money came back to Grimsby for the speed cameras?
I think you know that better than I do, unfortunately. It would probably be something that has showed up in your budget.
I don't know if we have anyone from finance here, but
Tony, if you had that, that'd be great.
Yeah, through the mayor, we received 117,000 for 2024.
okay, thank you. My next question is, what percentage of the regional budget goes to transportation? You've said 40% goes to police, which will probably be 45% next year. What percentage goes to transportation?
It's actually smaller than what you might think it is. I was actually quite surprised. It's 2.5% is for all departments, so 2.5% of the budget. Again, I think that's written out on your first sheet. So the departments is your transportation. It is I'm sorry, I've lost my...
Transportation, not transit.
Transportation is what you asked,
Yeah, like
correct?
buses.
No, that's...
Oh, then transit, sorry.
Okay.
That's what I meant then.
Okay, transit doesn't go through the Grimsby budget or the region budget at all. It is a separate entity. We collect for them, but they do the billing for it. Now, I believe Councillor Frake is on the transit committee, and he's probably better able to answer that for you, because it doesn't really cross the lines anymore. It's no longer Niagara Regional Niagara Regional.
But it's a
Transit.
significant amount, and I guess it comes from ultimately the same pocket, so I was wondering.
Yes, but
kind
it's on a separate levy, so I don't have that with me.
Okay.
Okay.
My next question is, why not, and it's just a comment, why not just have 40K all along Main Street? Because it's, when I look at that, it's kind of confusing, like, you know, when do I speed up, when do I slow down? No speed up now, no slow down now. So I think it would be just easier if it was just, if you know You enter here, it's 40. When you leave there, then you can speed up. So that's just a comment.
No, I absolutely agree, and I did bring that up when they announced this. I said it's nothing like going up and down, up and down, up and down the whole street. I totally agree. Apparently, there has something to do with the distance between the blocks.
Okay, and my final question is, how many officers will be dedicated to Grimsby of these new officers? And the reason I'm asking, like, I thought it was very disturbing that I read about a home invasion in Grimsby. So now people are coming through your door to get your car keys with hammers and guns. And this is not Grimsby. So, you know, obviously, we've got some issues. We've had huge problems with car thefts. So we need to see more of a police presence on our streets. And I'd like to know sort of how many of these new officers will be patrolling our streets. Thank you.
That's a very good question, and it was also a question I posed to them. At that time, Chief Forty wasn't willing to state how many officers were going to each area. District 8, as you're well aware, is a very large area by landmass. It's not as great or as dense as some of the other places. So I expect some of them will be coming our way, but they weren't willing to commit at this time. And a lot of our stuff comes from St. Catharines when we've got a big problem. For example, that home invasion that you mentioned.
All right, well, for me, in my thinking and analysis of this, because we are such a big area physically, we need more police, because the larger areas like St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, I mean, they've got a kind of economies of scale where they can mobilize far more quickly, where we're really not able to do that, and we're quite vulnerable being so close to the QEW. I think this is something that seriously has to be looked at by the regional police force. So any suggestions you have about how we could move that along, please let us know.
I will certainly do that, and it is something that's a big concern for a lot of us in this area for exactly the reasons that you have mentioned.
Councillor Howe.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. One little area that just kind of jumps out, one single line, has to do with this crossing or the stoplight at Murray Street right there at Central School.
Yes.
Okay? They're talking about pulling that out of there.
The part that's coming out, I believe, is the flashing lights that indicate there's a school, and the school sign itself is coming
But
out.
not the.
I don't think anything was said about having the light taken out of there.
Because the way I read it, it seemed like it was, but if I can stand corrected, that can be. But the.
I'm going to look and confirm.
Because what they could do is adjust the timing on the light, because it's currently still set up for small kids going back and forth to school. But just down the road, because it's probably a place that we should be thinking about pedestrian crossing anyways.
Okay, I have the actual report then from Public Works, and it is to remove the school area and flashing 40 based on the school relocation.
Okay, I read it that differently there.
Yeah,
Good,
it'll stay there.
okay.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Thank you, Councillor Seaborn. Very thorough, and I appreciate it. My question is related to the new police officers as well. I've got a couple of questions, and I know, obviously, I don't expect you to have these answers off the top of your head because but you're always great at coming back and bringing back the answers at future meetings. So if you could do that, I would appreciate it. So the 33 new police officers, based on what I could find online, that's an increase of 4%, a little bit more than 4%. So I'd like to know how that relates to changes in the population. Generally, you want the policing to increase related to the population increases. I'd like to know, and I'm sure that you've asked these questions, but if you could get these answers for us, I'd appreciate it. What are the expected outcomes of the increased policing? So, how will it improve service? How will it reduce crime? Because just adding police officers, we know from lots of data from all over North America and all over the world that just increasing police officers doesn't reduce crime. There are things that do reduce crime when you increase police officers, things like visible presence. So if we have areas that we know that are higher in crime, Grimsby on the Lake is one that comes to mind. Please don't misunderstand me. I don't want to be. I don't want to say, oh, it's out of control, because I don't think it is. I think that there's always been crime, and there will be crime. But the types of incidents that we're talking about do raise alarms. So I think that if we have a visible presence with the police, and when people know that there are patrols that are, and just even if it's randomly going through the neighborhood, it's going to reduce the amount of crime that you have. And hotspot policing is the other one. So, visible presence, and that's what I'm talking about in the Niagara Grimsby on the Lake area. So those are the things related to policing that I'd like to get information back on. So if you can bring some. Now, going to the signage and the speed cameras, I don't think 40, this might go against to what other council members have to say, but I don't think 40 on a main street, on a collector road, on an arterial road, is a reasonable speed. I think in front of Park School, where there's an elementary school, yes, absolutely, because there are younger kids there that, going to 40 there makes sense. But going to 40 all the way down what is basically our main street, and is the street that goes between Grimsby and Beamsville, is not a reasonable speed. I don't think that is something that we should expect from people. And for the region to make it 40 seems like just another way of ticketing people. Now that, what we want from a reduction in speed is we want people to actually reduce speed, right? Like even the cameras, I don't love the cameras, but we have evidence that supports the fact that when you put cameras in place, people are aware of them and they slow down. And anybody who's driven past Park School, whether the camera's in place or not, knows that the person in front of you slams on their brakes and is going 40 kilometers an hour through that zone at midnight just in case. So I think it's working. I think we need to be fair to people, and I still don't think that the signage that you're presenting, I still don't think it's fair. I think that anytime we have a speed camera, we need flashing signs. Because again, if the goal is to reduce speed, which is what we're saying it is, it's not to collect money, it's not to raise revenue. The revenue is a bonus, but it's to reduce the speeds in the areas where we want to see it more safe. Then we need to we have to give people as much of a fighting chance to slow down as possible. And I've driven all over the world, and I've seen flashing signs when they want people to reduce speeds. I think that we should be doing the same in these zones where we're reducing the speed. I still don't think 40 is reasonable, but I absolutely think that if you're reducing it to 40, there should be flashing signs all day long there, because that's not expecting people to go 40 on a main street. I don't think is a reasonable thing to ask of people. So those are my thoughts. The questions related to policing, I'd love to hear back from, but again, I don't expect you to have those answers tonight. I'd love to hear what you have to say about the 40 kilometers an hour, because again, I don't think that that's reasonable on a main street.
Well, actually, Councillor DeFlavio, pretty much everything you said, I echoed as well. I said Grimsby has one main street, and you're putting it down to 40. It's going to be a very hard sell. They did explain all of the reasons why. They do have these warrant sheets. The warrant sheets tell you why certain speeds should be certain speeds. And there is one area in Grimsby that's had 2 pretty serious accidents with children while the cameras have been, fairly recently, like since the beginning of the cameras. So one particular area, the one that they expanded, which is the one that goes to Park School and the other, the 2 parks and the other school, it came up with a warrant score of 32, which is actually pretty high. So that was one of the reasons that particular, and that again is the Park Road School. But But they made a region-wide decision to reduce the speed limit by 10 kilometers per hour for each of the however many zones there are in the Niagara region. So if you normally were set to go 60, you're now going to suddenly be going 40, or 50 rather. And there's enough people that have a hard enough time making that jump, let alone the jump from 50 to 40. And we've all seen already within the town of Grimsby, there's signs up for some of our secondary roads. There are 40 kilometers an hour. But I do concur, because it's the only main street in Grimsby, I agree that it's going to be very hard to stay at 40 kilometers an hour. And like Councillor Vardy said, you might as well have just made the whole thing 40, because to go 40 and then 50 and then 40 then 50 will have its share of problems. I'm just really hoping that the signage is such. As far as the lights, we have all argued about having the lights on there. And the comment that came back, which kind of stopped us cold, is those lights are a good indicator for the average person. They'll see them and they'll recognize it's a school zone. And some of those will start to disappear as well. But then they come out and tell us, do you know how many people that see bus lights or lights on the bus and still go around them or still go past them? So maybe the lights are working for some of us, but the lights aren't working for everyone. It also interferes with the cameras. I believe that the reasoning behind it is if the lights for some reason malfunction during the time that the school speed is reduced, who's to say that that won't be a reason why you want to declare that you should have been allowed to go whatever speed you were traveling, even though the lights weren't out. Now, it could have been any reason that the lights were out at the time. It's not my reasoning behind it, it's the reason that we were given. And the police, I've got some of those reports too, so you and I can talk a little later if you want to go over some of the other things. And to switch totally from cameras to police, again, I concur with you about the number of problems that we have, and we have to get more police on the road or on the streets. And that's exactly what these 33 officers were for. There's actually more than 33 officers being hired. It's 33 frontline, on the ground officers that are being hired. On an average week, I will get 6 or 7 complaints from people whose cars have been broken into, whose cars have been stolen, whose property has been vandalized in one way or another, and their frustration is the fact that the police aren't able to come and do a report. They need more police officers out there, absolutely, and I really hope that this is going to take care of problems, because it's really upsetting when you hear this many complaints from a community that we've never heard complaints from before.
Through you, Mayor, I want to reiterate the fact that one incident doesn't mean a huge increase in crime, and Facebook didn't exist 20 years ago, but crime did. So now when something like this happens, it becomes national news, but that doesn't mean that it's happening more. That just means that it's being broadcast better. So I think that that's important to make clear. And the other thing I want to talk about is the 40 kilometers an hour. We know, and even the engineers and the traffic staff from the region know, that simply reducing speed limits does not reduce speeds. So I hope that going with these reduced speeds will be engineering and other things that are done to actually physically reduce people's speeds. Because otherwise it's just a number put up on a sign and has no meaning other than the fact that people are getting tickets. So if we really want to reduce speeds, we need to change the way the roads are built. We need to change the way that if they're big, wide roads, people go faster. That's just a fact. So other things need to happen besides a number on a post. That's all I want to get through to you. Thank you.
Councillor Korsanji.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you for such a thorough report, and thank you for mentioning the West Niagara Special Olympic athletes. They do actually participate within West Niagara as well, so they are athletes, which is wonderful. And thank you for going to the rally. I did hear they were very happy that you went. I just want to touch on the homelessness in Niagara. Thank you for these numbers. It helps sort of with the stigma of homelessness, and I think it's shocking when we see 101 are children under 15. That's a number we can't not see. So thank you for putting that out there. My concern is, do we know if any of this funding will come to the Niagara West area? I have heard, I'm not sure exactly on this, but the Heart Hub is to be in Welland, and there's only going to be 8 beds. And if that's true, I have a concern. One, it's not enough, and two, when you have services in Welland, which absolutely needs it, and Niagara Falls and everything, but we don't have services out here, and what we will do is put residents on transit to those shelters, to those areas, but if they're full, we're sending them to nowhere. So I'm just wondering if we know if any more services will be coming to Niagara West with some of this funding at all.
Well, you're right. I think Welland, Niagara Falls, and St. Catharines are going to get the bulk of it, but they have the bulk of the problems right now. And yes, I do agree that West Niagara has their problems as well. But probably a year ago, I touched on some of the opportunities that were out there for people that were having problems with either addictions or mental health. They do exist, and if you need to, I can certainly look those up for you again. This is a very positive step. I'm not sure that you're correct on it just being 8 beds, but it is a step in the right direction, and I'm glad both the province, well, both of these were done by the province. One was just a different ministry.
Councillor Sharwa.
Through you, Chair, thank you. So before I just have a few comments on some things that we need. I'm not going to go into, a whole lot about the speed cameras. We know how I feel about them. I'm happy to know that people are slowing down. So I feel sorry for the people that got the tickets in the beginning and maybe were unaware of some of the changes. However, now people seem to be trained. And now reducing the 50 zones to 40 kind of feels like we're tricking them to get some extra money. That's just my opinion. 40 is incredibly slow, and you did say that in Park area, fine, we need to keep it at 40. I understand that. But for those other 2 areas to drop from 50 to 40, I feel like it's just a cash grab. So I don't feel comfortable with that. Obviously, I'm going to post about it and let people know. But I feel like we've already gone through that whole training to get people to where they are now, and we're just changing the goalposts again. So I don't know if you can take that back, but that's how I feel. I do not feel having all of Main Street 40 would be the way to go either, because people are just going to speed anyways, and we're just setting them up for failure. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Just a few housekeeping items. 2 signs that need repair in Grimsby that I noticed. One is in Ward 3, Old Orchard Sewage Pumping Station on 6 Lake Street. There's some graffiti on the sign, so if that can... Sure, I took a picture of it. And then also there is a sign that looks like a truck might have hit it. It's completely down on Bartlett in Ward 1. So it's off of one of the exits on the north side of the QEW. So if that could be addressed, that'd be great. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And to reiterate, I share your thoughts about 50 or 40 along Main Street. Did argue the point, and I'll bring it back to them and let them know that we've had this conversation today.
Thank you for your presentation, Councillor Seaborn. And yeah, you've had enough time, right? Up next, we have Chair's report. Councillor Sharwa, please give your chair report.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So the committee met on February 25th. I'm pleased to report that, as usual, there's significant progress being made in our Community Services Department to provide recreational opportunities for our community. And a few of the items of progress I'd like to point out, I will mention in my report. So the first was we heard a report from Alexandra Harstone, the Art Gallery Manager Curator. Alexandra reported that the Art Gallery is celebrating its 50th anniversary, and they're going strong, so strong in fact that 2024 was their most profitable year to date. With more events planned for the community, I anticipate we'll see another profitable year, surpassing the last. Second item was a report from Director Sweeney regarding advertising rates for the Peach King Center, mainly ads along the boards in the arena. This service was outsourced in the past, but offering it in-house will now provide the town additional income in the future, and we had discussion about additional advertising opportunities as well. Some additional improvements in progress are LED lighting retrofits being added into the library and art gallery, the museum, town hall buildings, marking a significant step toward improved energy efficiency and sustainability. By replacing outdated fixtures with modern LED technology, the town is making a long-term investment in environmental responsibility and operational savings. As you know, the 40 Mile Creek pedestrian bridge is in progress, and it is progressing well and is anticipated to be complete and ready for the public by the end of spring. The Elizabeth Street Pump House has been undergoing some upgrades in recent months. A new kitchenette area has been installed, providing a new convenient and functional space for visitors and those renting the space. Future improvements, which will come to the committee later, I'm sure, will include some changes to the HVAC system and interior and exterior painting. We heard a report that laid out the stats and feedback from fall recreational programs in 2024. The feedback from participants was overwhelmingly positive and pointed to another successful fall programming season. 94% of the respondents reported being happy or very happy with their overall experience. The feedback from participants also requested that we continue to provide even more programs and times in the future. The committee discussed ideas about what new programs we could look to add in to meet the desires of our community and any gaps to ensure everyone has options available to them. Lastly, we heard a report from Director Sweeney about the revised pickleball schedule and fees proposed for the 2025 season. This, as you know, was in response to programming and allocation of court bookings. In a nutshell, we feel there's a happy medium that we're going to try this year, which provide lots of opportunities for both residents not affiliated with the Pickleball Association, as well as those who belong to the Grimsby Pickleball Association. It's a more balanced approach, which at this point seems agreeable to residents and the GPA members. With the new system, we will have data to look at the end of the year and refine the schedules and fees next year if needed. Thank you to our staff, Trevor and Sarah, for getting us to this point, and we thank everyone for their patience and input for this new pickleball system. So that concludes my recap. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Sharwa. Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. The Public Works, I'm going to focus mostly on one item, and that's the Downtown Reimagined project that's coming forward. SEMA Plus and Town of Grimsby engineering staff are working on, along with the Downtown BIA and the Chamber of Commerce and the Niagara region, are working on this, the Downtown Reimagined project. This, of course, stems from the need to replace the cast iron water mains that are downtown that age from the 1950s. So the town and our staff are taking that opportunity to update the downtown area. The guiding principles of this project are prioritizing pedestrians. So some of the things that I talked about when I was talking to Councillor Seaborn before, changes to the road to make it more pedestrian friendly. All of these things are things that we know work now, and we're going to see some of these things in the downtown. Sustainability and innovation, a multimodal approach, which means taking into considerations bikes, cars, people, pedestrians. Parking strategies are going to be important. Economic vibrance for the downtown is important, and creating a distinct place, which I think Grimsby Downtown already has, but kind of enhancing that and making it even better. So what will that look like? The elements that are going to be prioritized are tree planting, lighting, landscaping, furniture, active and inviting storefronts, and public art. So what's going to happen is traffic will be reduced to 2 lanes, making the sidewalk and other lanes as flexible spaces. So they're going to be sort of a combo sidewalk, and this is all available in the drawings online, so I'd encourage people who have questions to go and look at that. But they're going to be kind of a combination sidewalk parking space so that when we need them for wider sidewalks, they can be converted via bollard to sidewalk. And Ontario Street as well, which people are quite familiar with if you walk downtown, will be reduced to 2 lanes. Now it's 2 lanes southbound or northbound, and 1 lane northbound. It's going to be reduced to 2 lanes, which means a bump out, which means a shorter crosswalk for pedestrians, which enhances pedestrian safety. So as far as timelines are concerned, this summer of 2025, we're looking at completion of a detailed design. Fall and winter of 2025 is the earliest start date for construction of the water main outside of the downtown core. Winter and summer of 2026, we're going to see water main replacement, sewer repair, and restoration. And then summer of 2026, we'll see the road reconstruction, including water main, sewer installation, and repair. So the whole thing, the goal is to have it completed by the fall of 2026, which of course our funding is reliant upon. We did receive some funding that is helping us pay for this project. As far as community engagement is concerned, there are frequent updates and stakeholder meetings. We get frequent updates at Public Works. Our Public Works staff are attending the Downtown Business Improvement meetings. There's a DBIA construction committee. We're doing everything possible to make sure that everybody is on board and understands the impact, because closing down Main Street is a big deal, and it's going to have an impact on the businesses down there. So we want to have everybody ready for this closure and everybody understanding how they can keep their businesses open, how we can help to keep those businesses running and vibrant while the construction occurs. We've looked at other municipalities, and we've asked staff to look at other municipalities to see what best practices have been when these types of things have happened. We've seen places like Oakville that had a project ambassador, for example, and we're looking at what we could do to keep businesses vibrant during this time. Other than that, we had drinking water management system reports, which are important but not exciting. And the gist of it is the water quality in Grimsby in our distribution system continues to meet the Ministry of Environment's high standards for drinking water quality. I'll leave it at that. I do want to focus on one thing, and that is Member Smink thanked staff for their excellent work on snow clearing this winter. It was a particularly difficult winter for staff for snow clearing, and I think that they did an exceptional job, and I want to echo that thank you to our staff members who are out there day and night cleaning the snow and making Grimsby a safe place to travel. Thanks, Mayor.
Great, I'll second that for sure. Councillor DeVola, you're up next.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. The Finance Committee met on February 27th, 2025. And the first item of discussion was the report that came to us for the 2024 tax write-offs. As you are all aware, the town collects municipal taxes on behalf of the region and the school boards, and that there is a process in place to actually apply for tax write-offs. It could be that a property has been damaged by fire or has been demolished or something along those lines. So the report is, and we also, sorry, let me back up one more step. The Finance Committee took a look at this process about a year ago, and these write-offs are actually mandated under the Municipal Act. So it's not that there is any leeway by our staff in granting these write-offs or not, but a report must come to the Finance Committee once a year that basically summarizes the write-offs that have been processed and approved. So altogether, the write-offs totaled some $30,308, of which approximately $6,700 is the town share, and that's for 15 applications that came to our finance department. The next item that had some discussion had to do with our biannual procurement report and an update on it. And I will say that we are still waiting to follow up with legal counsel for their comments on the changes we were proposing to it. And added to that, of course, was the resolution that came from council to also investigate what we could do to, I will say, buy Canadian. That's probably the best way to describe that. And that our finance staff are definitely behind the scenes looking at what could be done. And there are some ideas, but life is also very gray. And so I will say that, you know, sometimes, and I am all for buying Canadian, but the gist of it is that we don't make fire trucks, for example, in Canada. We don't build them. And so sometimes, for all practical reasons, that's why we buy things from other countries as well. Nevertheless, that is still an issue that is being looked into. In the course of it all, we also had some discussion about, you know, how we go about budgeting and how we go about with such detailed disclosure of the amounts in our capital budgets. And the discussion was around the issue of when our budget is in such minute detail that it even shows, you know, street by street, line by line, project by project, the exact amount, you know, are we actually giving away too much information? And if you're a vendor out there that's planning to bid on something and you know exactly what our budget is for that project, you know, have we done ourselves a disservice by being so detailed in how we present it? And so we asked our finance staff if they would take that back, look at what others are doing, and look at what some other options might be. As always, we had an update on the Peach King Center and the expansion of it. You'll see that in the report attached, of course, to the agenda for this meeting. And things are still on track, fingers crossed. And the last item is the Finance Committee work plan for 2025. So what the Finance Committee did when it first met, we took the terms of reference, and that became basically the walking orders for the committee, laid it out sort of meeting by meeting as to when these matters would be addressed. And we've gone through 2024, so we have updated it and set the work plan for 2025. And that was reviewed again by the committee and approved, and it is our recommendation to council, and really we're sharing it with you as to the issues that are in front of us and when we intend to address them. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councillor DeVole. Up next is myself. Our Planning and Development Committee meeting was on March 5th, 2025. We had a delegation from Mike Collins-Williams from the West End Home Builders Association. He was here to speak in support of the Grimsby GO Station and in support of transit-oriented development in the GO Station corridor. He had a lot of interesting information, and he was really supporting the GO Station from the West Hamilton Home Builders Association. And our other item on the meeting was discussion report for the draft plan of condominium for 27 John Street. And it looks like it is finally moving ahead, which is good to see. And it's always nice when builders actually do start building again, because we certainly have a lot of approved sites that are sitting now waiting for the economy to turn and waiting for some stability, which we hope to see soon. All right, that's the end of my report. And can I have a mover and seconder to approve the previous minutes? Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Resolved that the following minutes be approved. Council, February 24th, 2025. Community Services Committee, February 25th, 2025. Public Works Committee, February 26th, 2025. Finance Committee, February 27th, 2025. And Planning and Development Committee, March 5th, 2025. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we have board minutes. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the board minutes? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Vardy. All right, before we receive that, Councillor Howe, you wanted to announce something?
And it's not the plowing match. Anyways, before I do the most important part, everybody needs to be aware, October 3rd, we'll get past the plowing match, but then the next thing high on our list is October 3rd for the Glam Gallery, the fundraiser for the art gallery, for the museum, and for the library. And I'm even going to put on another tie. I've got a clean one at home, and I'll have it on. Anyways, but what I would really like to do is welcome Ms. Ashley Whip, who is here with us. Ashley is our new CAO/head librarian, or did I reverse it? Okay. Anyways, who's on board with us now, and I think we made a damn good decision. So, welcome.
Welcome, Ashley. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that the following board minutes be received. Grimsby Public Library Board, February 12th, 2025. Committee of Adjustment, February 18th, 2025. All in favor? And that's carried. Are there any announcements for this evening? Councillor Korstanji.
Thank you, through Chair. I would just like to congratulate the town of Grimsby and staff. I had the pleasure of attending the United Way Niagara's campaign celebration brunch, and with our CAO accepted the award for new campaign of the year, which was presented to the town of Grimsby. And so congratulations to everybody that was involved in the campaign. I understand that staff held a lot of bake sales and different ventures to raise money. So it was nice to be recognized in our first year. So just congratulations to everyone involved.
Great, thank you, Councillor Korstanji. Councillor Sharwal.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. Two events. So the first one being the Grimsby Environmental Network is inviting the community to a free presentation by Bruce McKenzie titled Hawk Watch. Bruce is an experienced hawk watcher and will illustrate the different types of hawks and how our unique geography affects the flight pattern. Hawk Talk will be taking place this Thursday, March 20th at 7 p.m. at the Grimsby Public Library. And I also wanted to mention another event happening at the Grimsby Museum. This is happening, it's a true crime series, talk series with Cameron Willis. And that will be held, I believe it's the 29th, and it's a $10 admission. It's March 29th at 1 p.m. And you need to go onto the Grimsby Museum website to register for this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharwal. Councillor Howe.
Through you, Chair, and I take it back. Here comes another plug for the plowing match. Last Wednesday morning for the regular scheduled meeting for the DIA, they put up with my little bit of cheerleading, and they're excited about it. They're looking forward to it. September 16th to the 20th. Did I say that about the plowing match yet? Thank you.
I have a couple of announcements. On March 7th, the day before International Women's Day, Grimsby Age Friendly Committee hosted a conference and event, and it was really well attended by the community, and it certainly had a lot of life choice events and organizations, and just was able to give greetings there at Mountain View Church. And it was so nice to see Grimsby's community out in full force at that event. And I just really want to commend the committee for really putting that together. And Krista on staff did so much, and all of the staff that was involved in that. And another thing coming up is Grimsby Celebration Choir, Saturday, March 22nd at 7 p.m. They'll be at the West Niagara Theater, and it's called Night at the Movies, and it will be a good evening with the Celebration Choir. And seeing no other, Councillor DeVoley, sorry, missed you there.
Thank you. I just wanted to share with everyone and also thank some of our departments that last week was March break. And for all those parents who work full-time, of course, our Community Services Department runs camp during the week, but all the individual departments like the Art Gallery, the library, and the museum also run individual events too. Everything from puppet shows and movies to other activities. And so I will just say that this grandmother says thank you for the opportunity to pet a boa constrictor, a ferret, a gecko, and to make some stuffed animals and some other things. Truly, enjoyable events, and just a big shout out and thank you to our staff.
Great. Up next, we have discussion report. Can I have a mover and seconder to get the Grimsby Green update report on the floor for discussion? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Vardy. Questions from council? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that report TC 25-05 Grimsby Green Advisory Committee 2025 update dated March 17, 2025 be received, and the Grimsby Green terms of reference and workshop be approved, or work plan be approved, and that council accept the member resignations and direct staff to advertise and recruit committee members as per the revised terms of reference, and that Councillor Vardy be appointed as chair of the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee, and that Grimsby Green meetings reconvene following the completion of recruiting new members. All in favor? That's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder to get the alternative voting methods report on the floor for discussion? Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Corstangi. Questions or comments from council? Councillor Howe.
I agree with the recommendation. It's more a comment, and I broached it earlier, is how do we, and this is an age-old question, we brought it up, talked about it in the 90s when I was here. I think every council, how do we get people out to vote? Like, it's the one little thing. It takes us about 3. Heck, you can do it online now. So how do we not vote when it takes about 13 seconds? Now, do they not know? Maybe. But I think there's a whole lot of effort put into it. And if they look at what we put out there in signs, gee, you think maybe they know that there's an election somewhere along the line. But what do we do? What do we do to get the vote out? Or what does society, maybe let's make it to a bigger package to get people involved, to give a damn about what it is that is controlling their life, or you get stuck with what they got in the States.
Go ahead, Tori.
Through the mayor, I agree. I think it's a challenging question. I can tell you that I'm in a provincial working group that's already discussing the 2026 election. This is a hot topic. They're discussing tactics across the entire province. We have a local area municipality group for the clerks that discuss elections. We're discussing that too. Voter turnout is a huge item on our radar. I think you have there's a lot of work that we can do. Social media is our friend and not in some of those circumstances. So we'll make sure like a detailed communication plan is on it from us. I think we would look to the community to help spread the word. I mean, the best way to talk about it is for other people to talk about it too, so.
Great. Councillor Korsanji.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I agree with the proposal on the floor. I'm just going to ask if perhaps we can maybe offer an educational session for some of the seniors that do use a telephone voting and maybe sort of give them some guidance on the internet voting so that they feel comfortable in using it and how to use it. And I think that might help sort of ease that gap.
Go ahead.
So through the chair, I think that's a great idea. I believe at the last election, we had a place set up in the lobby of Town Hall to help people if they want to come in. We'd be able to help them in advance. And I certainly, I've seen a lot of clinics, I guess, if you'll say that, or hands-on learning to do that. So we're happy to, when we get a little closer and have those plans, we'll definitely incorporate that.
Councillor Barty.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a suggestion. Going back to the days when I was director of the National Literacy Secretariat, which was responsible for adult literacy at the federal level, one of the things that we found best encouraged adults to improve their literacy were having their children to encourage them to improve their literacy. And I'm thinking, we've got a local election coming up in 2 years. Why don't we start, doing a little bit of education in the schools, saying, encourage your parents to vote. This is how easy it is. Let me show you how easy it is. And, that's a simple lesson. Kids go home all excited, tell their parents. And, it's one avenue, I think, that hasn't been explored in this venue.
Councillor Howe.
Through you, Chair, and Councillor Vardy kind of made me tweak on, like, how do we do it? But made me think, and I don't want to play stump the band, but I'm going to ask a couple of we've got two teachers here. Do they still teach civics? I believe it's probably still called civics.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, I've taught civics many times. It's a full course. It's a half of course, so it's half of a year. Teaching civics and getting people to actually do it, are two different things. I think that what we've got happening now is with the provincial and the federal and then a municipal election all happening in a compacted time. I think people get a little bit of fatigue, but I agree with you and Councillor Vardy that if we can, whatever we can do, there are already things that happen in the school to encourage people. They have votes when there are federal elections. They'll have like a straw vote that happens within the school. They do everything possible. It takes people actually wanting to do it and understanding the value of it afterwards, after school is over. In school, it's going great. So 16-year-olds understand the importance of voting. 26-year-olds and 36-year-olds and 46-year-olds, I think, is where we're having the problem. So whatever we can do from a staff perspective to get that to happen. But yes, to answer your question quickly, civics is still taught. It's a half of a credit. It's more of a credit than it was when I was in school, because it used to be a part of the history curriculum. It used to be one unit in the history curriculum when I was in high school, and they thought it was so important that they took it out and made it its own course. That doesn't make it more important to the public, unfortunately, and that doesn't emphasize it anymore. But from a curriculum perspective, it's certainly there, and it's important.
All right, seeing no further questions, moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Korsanji. Resolved that report TC 25-06, alternative voting methods for the 2026 municipal election dated March 17, 2025 be received, and that internet and in-person ballot voting as detailed in the report continue as the methods of voting for the 2026 municipal election, and that staff be directed to prepare a request for proposal for this purpose of sourcing the most appropriate vendors, and that mayor and clerk be authorized to execute any agreements necessary to secure voting equipment for the 2026 municipal election, and that cybersecurity validation of the selected vendor software be obtained. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we have notice of motion. Councillor Bradsey, could you please read your notice of motion?
Yes, Mayor, through you. Resolved that council sends a resolution to the province, in particular the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing for the province of Ontario, asking for a full review of the governance model and the provincial committee overseeing the study on regional governance in Niagara to find efficiencies for the long-term fiscal sustainability of the region, that a report back to the Town of Grimsby Council with any findings, and that this motion be circulated to the Niagara MPPs, local municipalities in the region. I acknowledge that this motion will be considered at the March 31st council meeting. Thanks, Mayor.
All right, up next, can I have a mover and seconder for the bylaws? Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws 2514 and 2515, and that same be read a first time, considered, and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Next council meeting is scheduled for March 31st, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Can I have a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Moved by Councillor DeVoli, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 25-16 and that same be read a first time, considered, and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Good night, everyone. Meeting is adjourned.